All right, our senior reporter, Kenny Mapanga, joins me now in studio. Kenny, a very good afternoon to you. Of course, let's just unpack what happened in court today. But I mean, I want to touch about the main applicants, ETV Media, and what their complaints are. They essentially saying that they don't take any exception to migration. In fact, they support it. However, they are afraid that millions of South Africans will be disenfranchised.
Indeed. Good afternoon to you, Unati, and to the viewers at home. Well, this is an important case that has begun in the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria. It's a special allocation, so it is being treated as a matter of urgency. We are dealing with the right to access to information. Of course, ETV is a private entity, but of course the SABC is one of those broadcasters that has a vested interest in this matter, because it will affect the ability to perform the mandate of the SABC if this deadline goes ahead on the 31st of March 2025, and we see that there isn't a complete rollout of those set-top boxes to qualifying homes. And now we're hearing that there may be additional households that may not qualify but may also need that right to access to information, because they also utilize that free-to-air platform to get the information that they need. So it's a critical case where ETV, together with public interest NGOs, that is Media Monitoring Africa and SOS, have come together to say, halt this process until a constitutional, lawful, rational process precedes this project successfully completing in South Africa.
And you know, just talking about the SABC, I want you to unpack a little bit about what their role in this particular matter is. I mean, I recall SABC CEO not too long ago, coming to the channel and just explaining a number of issues, including this migration, saying, of course, and unpacking the SABC's funding model, which is very important here. I mean, interestingly, of course, that 83% of the SABC's revenue comes from commercial activity. So one would then imagine that this, is an interesting case even for the SABC. Well,
the stakes are high for a number of broadcasters that utilize the analog spectrum. But of course, for the SABC, it is a bit greater. It is the public broadcaster. You are performing a mandate. And as the SABC Group CEO has previously explained, that if the deadline of the 31st of March 2025 goes ahead, that means a good portion, that is 27% of those numbers, will be lost by the SABC, meaning that those numbers that you can use in order to generate revenue for the SABC and create a sustainable institution is now at risk, because if that continues, when this process hasn't been complete, then the SABC is put in a position where will not be able to fully perform its mandate for the public.
As it stands, that switch-off deadline is the 31st of March 2025, so in a matter of days, essentially. So just give us a sense in what the applicants are saying in terms of the role of the Minister of Communications and Technologies in as far as that deadline is concerned.
Well, look, this issue of the deadlines and the postponements, this has been going on dating back to 2011. So, I mean, there is obviously a need to complete this process, but it needs to be done properly. It appears that from the arguments, it suggests that it may be a capacity issue, the state's failure to meet the demand to provide those set-top boxes. We're also hearing allegations that the set-top boxes may not be in the or optimally functioning in order to perform the task. And of course, there are a number of allegations regarding whether if the implementing agent, that is Centec, would be able to meet the deadline of fully rolling out by the 31st of March, which is essentially 2 weeks away from now. The applicants argue that that is not the case. And if we look at, there's a bit of a teaser that the respondents will argue that by December, this process should be done, and that government cannot be held at ransom by the applicants in completing this migration project that has been going on for over a decade now. There's an argument that there's no evidence before the court to suggest that they can actually complete that task by December, which would mean that those over 1 million indigent people would not be able to access or have access to the right information for at least 9 months, if that is the case, and perhaps it could be more. So what the applicants are arguing is that they want a constitutional, rational process to follow, and how that can happen is through a consultative process. We've already heard SOS and Media Monitoring Africa charging before the court that they were excluded from that particular process, and they would like to give submission so that the decision that is reached by the minister is one that is in line with the Constitution and the law.
I mean, just in terms of the set up boxes, I would imagine this will go into the multi-millions, considering if, in fact, the allegations that some of those boxes could potentially be, not working optimally. But I want to talk now about what are we expecting tomorrow. The case has been postponed to tomorrow. You've mentioned Centec. They play a very important role in this matter too. So what are we likely to see? So
there were a lot of figures thrown around about the number of households, the number of persons that form part of the poorest of the poor in South Africa that will be adversely impacted if there isn't some form of halt to this decision until a lawful process follows. Centec would have that kind of data as to when it could complete the rollout and how many households still need their set-top boxes, how many have them, how many are functioning optimally. And of course, because of that information that was raised before the court this afternoon, the counsel for the minister requested just a further afternoon in order to consult and be able to respond adequately to the concerns raised by the applicants in this all-important bid, which essentially seeks to halt that analog switch-off deadline, which is the 31st of March 2025, pending a lawful, rational process in reaching a decision. So if they're successful, then the relief sought is not to stop migration. They've argued that they support migration, but rather to remit the decision back to the minister to come up with a new decision. Of course, that would be followed by a rational process, which would include consultation, which is critical to what the public interest NGOs are arguing, is that you need to consult before you make a decision that would have adverse impacts. And of course, the Constitutional Court highlighting that if a decision is to be taken that would have adverse impacts, for it to be lawful, you would have to mitigate some of those adverse impacts that could follow from that decision. And we know that sitting today, that mitigation has not been achieved because there hasn't been a full rollout of those set-top boxes to the families that would need it or the households that would need it and require that to have access to information because they rely solely on these free-to-air platforms in order to get the information that they need.
And I think essentially what this case does demonstrate is that all-important discussion around digital transformation in the country. But Kenny, thank you so much for that. Let's leave it there for now.